SRMites, this is Say What with SRM and I'm your host Dave. And today we'll be discussing more about drone technology. For those of you interested in this field, I assure you that this will be very helpful for you to get started. So joining us today is Jayanth Ramakrishnan and Ashvanth. They both are CSE undergrads. So they will be furnishing us today with the knowledge and the wisdom that we need in this drone technology. So welcome, Jayanth and Ashvanth.
Thank you for inviting us.
Feels nice to be here.
Yeah. Before actually delving into the actual domain, I have a question to ask. What do you think about the students pursuing EC versus CSE department? Like, do one have an advantage over the other? Is it true? Like, because I feel that the EC students have, they are more exposed to the hardware related stuff. So I feel like they are naturally, tended to these stuffs. They have an advantage. Is it true?
More than advantage, I would say they have edge over other branches because they tend to know more of the hardware part. They know what component is used for which purpose. They are more better at electrical connections for which actually matters during efficiency, and they know the most important part is they know where to start. For other branches, the students might be perplexed on where to start their journey from, but once the other students have got their point, they are ready to kick off their journey. After that, everything is smooth. It's equal for both the domains. Yeah, EC have an edge over other branches. The other branch needs to gain a little more knowledge and struggle in order to come to that path of EC student.
I have a different opinion actually. EC and CSC, like hardware and software, whichever domain or whichever technology we see, EC will have 50% of its part and CSC coding part will be there for 50%. Same comes with aviation. Like building a drone, coding part is also equally important. Brain of a drone, which is the flight controller, it is fully coding. The background of the flight controller is coding.
Okay.
So EC guys may have a lot of exposure to hardware stuff, but CSE guys are very good at coding. So flying a drone needs the combination of both. Flight control algorithms comes from CSE and the hardware part comes from EC.
You can already see a beautiful blend between you both. Jen, so what do you think, being a CSE student, so how should one get started in this field?
The very basic software component which they must learn, I think, is Arduino. It's basic
Arduino.
for everything. They'll get to know about they can do robotic projects also. They can explore their interest. Arduino, then ESP32. They are like microcontrollers which they can gain knowledge about. And then after that, they can shift to aerodynamics, see some tutorials on YouTube. YouTube, I think, by far is the best guider to any starter. Then in Google, they can explore documentaries on how to match the components with the aerodynamics because the weight also matters. This is how they can get kickstarted, in my opinion.
Yeah, true, very true. YouTube is the most affordable platform to learn things. Do you have something more to share? How did your journey get started, basically?
Well, for me, I was on a flight to Dubai, so I was on Emirates. I stepped into A380. Luckily, it was A380. Once I stepped in the ambience, mechanics of that huge flight, I started wondering how does this huge fleet fly so smoothly in the air?
Yeah.
And that too at such a higher altitude. That fascinated me a lot. I wanted to step into the aviation field as a pilot, controlling such a huge giant engineering marvel. So that's what thrived me into the world of aviations. I wanted to learn aerodynamics, how they're actually flying, the science behind it. That is where all it started, and it's lucky to be knowing all those things. Literally fascinating. So yeah, that's how it started.
So it all started when you saw Emirates, like,
Felt the Emirates.
yeah. So you mentioned about big flights. I remember this biggest flight in Ukraine, which was recently destroyed because of Russian war on Ukraine.
Yeah.
It was, I think it's Boeing
Antonov.
or something.
AN225.
Yeah.
The
Do
most
you guys
beautiful thing.
do you guys have any analysis of that plane? Something that you can share?
Yeah, actually, Antonov AN225 was built like when in the Soviet Union, before the Soviet Union was collapsed. The plane was built as a competitor to Western aircraft builder Boeing.
Okay.
The main purpose of that aircraft is to carry the Buran.
Okay.
Buran is actually like it is the space shuttle built by the Soviet Union. It was a war strategy actually. If you can transport such a heavy loads through railway tracks,
Okay.
the Western countries can easily track that where the Buran is getting built. So they can just drop a bomb there. So they can't go with shipping also, it's not possible because it was inner land, it is not in the coastal area. The launch site was not in the coastal area. So you can't use shipping the ocean liners, you can't also use the railway tracks, it has its own disadvantages. So the only option Soviet Union had to airlift the products, like the Buran's fuel carriers, the Buran itself, the whole space shuttle needs to be air taken. So Antonov was the largest aircraft builder of that time in Soviet Union. So the option they had was to develop a new aircraft which the world has never seen.
Okay.
They built this aircraft AN225 Maria. It was the largest aircraft. The world was like stunned by seeing the aircraft in the Paris Air Show. That is how it started. The primary aim for that aircraft is to airlift the Buran.
It's really sad that the aircraft got destroyed though due to the war.
Very sad, yeah.
So what do you think? You're so knowledgeable. How should the designing, if let's say me, I have to get started with, designing a drone or something like that. How should I begin my designing analysis there?
Okay, for this, let me tell like how first I started.
Okay.
My interest in designing and building aircraft models started when my uncle presented me an radio control helicopter.
Okay.
Most of us must have played with it in our childhood. Instead of just playing with it, I took it apart just to see how it works. So that is when I started, and later I came to know that I have to build on my own. But designing an aircraft is a huge task. We have to make some calculations, calculate the weights, follow some designing principles. So it's not an easy task. So my first design was from internet. But when there was a time when I realized that aircraft should be designed by myself, I started with a software called QCAD. QCAD is a software where we can 2D designs and then we copy it into a building material, like whichever we choose, like thermocol, cardboard, whatever. And then we just cut out the parts, we fold it to form and shape. It's very similar to origami, what we do in origami. That is how I started. And later, like I have to upgrade from 2D to 3D designing software. I chose Fusion 360. Primary reason was it was from Autodesk. It's a very renowned company in this CAD software, and also it is also free for students.
Okay.
One of the primary reasons. CAD software, it is something like where we can design precise 3D models. When I upgraded there, I learned how to design in 3D, starting from basic materials to all the way up to whole aircraft. That is how I started.
Yeah, I'm actually overwhelmed with all the terms that you mentioned. So now you mentioned all the designing process, right? So the end result is to see anything fly. So the product that you have developed, obviously, like whatever you do, and end result that your product should fly, your drone should fly. I remember I can feel it relatable with the Wright brothers, seeing you both like your brothers. So they made a very simple model, but it was a very successful model. It was the genesis of the aviation industry for me. So what do you guys like? I want to know, how did you guys feel? Like, did you guys have a flight drone?
I still remember my first flight. My friends were there with me. I felt a lot of pressure on me since it was not a cheap product to make. It was an expensive fail. It would have been an expensive fail since my parents have also invested some money on me. So I had to prove them something. But at the moment when my friend hand launched the plane and it started flying smoothly over the air, that gave me the ultimate satisfaction. It was the ultimate satisfaction that I had.
Seeing a drone fly.
To see that aircraft fly.
And even in SRM, he flew a flight. For me, experiencing that, I didn't fly it. I was there because it was too windy. It must be more than 6 knots. He was the one flying that. Even though it was handheld, the flight started retarding. It came back.
Okay.
But he gave full-on thrust, and it was a ridiculous drive. Basically, it went up and down because it's difficult to handle. It's a lightweight flight, but the wind was too strong. He maneuvered that drive very well. He flew it excellently. Sometimes we felt it would crash in SR block, but it didn't.
Okay.
It was also a smooth landing. I was shouting with joy.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful to see it fly. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Nice, that's very, very well. So you have this amazing skill set already with you. So did you guys ever got an opportunity to showcase your skills somewhere, like an organization or a competition, something like that?
Yeah, the SkyQuest competition held in our SRM.
Okay.
That was the first one for me. Again, he was the one flying it. I was supposed to fly it along with my other member Pushpak, but again the main reason was wind. It was very windy weather that day. It was too much. Only he can handle it because he has experience of flying it a lot. There is where our drone was showcased. SRM's drone was showcased.
Okay.
Fully funded by Center of Drone Technology. Yeah, thankfully we fetched the second prize.
Okay, that's nice.
So yeah, that was a great experience.
Actually, I would like to speak about the organizers of the event. Actually, it was organized by the Center of Drone Technologies members itself. Most of them were first years. Great thing to. They worked really hard for it, starting from a week ago. Preparations, all those finances, managing it. It was a very hectic task, but they somehow managed to make the Sky Coast happen. So I really wanted to thank them.
Yeah, the beginning of our discussion. I feel like Jen, you're more oriented flying a plane. Ashwin, you're more oriented to developing a plane that flies. Which is more appealing to, to someone like, I mean, as I can see from the way you said, the thing that you describe, I feel like you want to be more of a pilot. Kind of Ashwin, you want to more of like developing a plane or something like that. Which is more, I feel both are equally appealing, but I still feel pilot to be cool.
Pilot is actually cooler. It's very cooler to held a cap over you. The captain thing.
Yeah, I get that.
It's
Glamorous job.
it's such a bold walk that you do towards your plane.
Yeah.
While especially the most appealing thing is other passengers are coming in a passenger bus while you land on a sedan, walk casually with a luggage directly inside the cockpit. That's a cool thing. Apart from that, flight, such a big
Responsibility.
mechanic, a marvel, steel, a dreamliner, with a lot of switches within. Wherever you see there is only switch controller, that where the inner thing strikes out, the passion of flying in the air between the clouds, handling a mechanism which is still a miracle in the human world. That's a very cool thing, but unless and until you don't experience crosswind. Yeah, but even building that marvel in itself is a big, actually the credits all goes to the engineers behind it.
Yeah.
They are the ones, they are the people, they are the heroes. Both are equally good, but pilot, obviously they are handling such a thing.
As far as I can see, it's all about the trust between you. The pilot, trust the guy who did it, who developed it, and the guy who developed it will trust the guy who's flying it.
And the passengers trust their pilots.
It's true, very true. Yeah, so now that you are an CSC engineer, how do you guys are planning to, or how are you managing your academics with your dream?
Being hostlers, giving us an edge. We have the whole night to prepare. Yeah, after our academics are over, we go into Center of Drone Technology. But for me, being a first year, coming to college, all I did was theory, aerodynamics, how a flight develops thrust. I was not into drones, but instead flights. How 1 degree of angle makes a change in, getting the flight into. How is it maintaining stability in such an altitude? The smoothness, the drag, everything was which inspired me to search into YouTube how it's actually flying. Suddenly transitioning me into the practical part of, and that too from flight to drone. For me, I felt a little hiccup.
Okay.
I felt me difficult to manage my academic side. I obviously felt the heat of academics going away from me and the heat of drone getting into me. So initial 3 months I was totally left out of academics, but then gradually I managed both of them.
It's all about passion. If you have passion, like if you are passionate about building a drone, you can definitely manage your academics, this hobby.
So looking ahead, what are you guys planning to your aviation field? So what is your future next steps?
Well, both are a dream and ambition is one and the same, becoming pilot. As for him, it was from pilot to developing. For me, it is pilot to pilot.
Okay.
It's actually a thought that comes in. Being a pilot is not easy. The industry demands a lot from you. CSC being a market trend and providing a lot of opportunity. We chose CSC, we are happy doing it, but later, even if we get a mild chance, even a single path, even if it is streamlined to get in, we'll definitely jump onto it to get into ourselves dressed up as pilot. That's the ultimate goal, especially for me. But even before taking CSC, I had a thought of being an aeronautical engineer because I wanted to be with flights no matter what. I tried being an ATC or being an aeronautical engineer.
Okay.
But unfortunately it didn't suit me, so I took CSC. Even robotics had a lot to do with me. I loved robotics too.
Okay.
So I took CSC and got into it.
I see a lot of shift in your dreams and it sounds optimistic. So all the very best for your future plans. So with that, we come to the end of the podcast and thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Signing
Thank
off,
you.
your host, Dave.